Good morning. My name is Beth Staniforth-Seamster. I am the Children's Ministry Coordinator at Whitewater Area Regional Ministry in Whitewater, Wisconsin. And I am excited to share my Sunday children's message with all of you. Well, we'll start with checking in. It is a thumbs up day for me. I'm very excited about our summer program that we're beginning actually today on Sunday here at church. We are doing a story walk. If you've never heard of that before, it's where you take a children's book and you take it apart and you laminate the pages and you post them on boards. And then you post the boards apart and people can walk around and read. So our story walk will begin at First United Methodist Church, 145 South Prairie Street, and it will walk around the church, and then at the end there will be a question for discussion for families or kids to think about, and translations will be provided in English and Spanish. So I hope you'll come check us out. This week the story is Maybe I Can Love My Neighbor Too by Jennifer Grant. And we're going to change the story every Sunday. Well, question for you. Do you know what a first impression is? First impression, I want you to think about someone that you're meeting for the very first time. You've never met them before. And the way that interaction goes is going to determine what you think about that person in many ways. Now, first impressions, if it's not a good one, they can be undone, but it usually takes time. So I want to tell you two stories about a first impression, and then I want us to think about which story you think you would rather have. Which experience would you rather have? When I was 23, I moved into a community of people. It was called a L'Arche community. A community where I lived and worked with people. And we tried to create a family within our home. So there were 5 people who had developmental disabilities, things like Down syndrome or birth trauma. And then there were 3 of us assistants. We shared life together as a family. So even though I knew the community, even though I had worked in it a little bit, I was nervous because I was moving in. And I was going to live here for a whole year. So when I came to the front door, I was a little nervous, but when the door swung open, I was greeted by 7 smiling faces. I got hugs. I had people saying, "Welcome, we're so glad you're here." And then every single person helped me carry all of my stuff up to my bedroom, even if it was just my pillow or a suitcase, or something small. And when I got to my bedroom, which was on the 3rd floor, by the way, so it was no small feat to move in, I opened the door and I saw that my bed had been made. There were flowers on the dresser. There was a note of welcome. There was candy. The windows were open. There were fresh curtains. Everything just looked lovely and inviting. And when we put everything down, then we went downstairs, and I was invited to have tea and cookies with everyone. I felt welcomed. I felt loved. I was excited to be there. The second story I would like to share with you is actually not my story. It's a story that one of my professors in seminary shared in one of our classes. My professor and his wife and their 3 children moved to a new city. And in this city, they were aware that they stood out a little bit because many people in this city were white, and these people, my professor is a black gentleman, his children are black, and his wife is Asian. So, from that perspective, they were a little different right from the start. But they went for a walk one day, the very first day, and they noticed that when they greeted their neighbors, no one would look them in the eye, no one would talk to them, no one would smile. They had some questions, but they couldn't even ask anyone a question like, where's the grocery store? Or is there a good coffee shop around here? Because people would not stop to engage them in conversation or say welcome. When we think about those two stories, they both make a first impression. And it really makes me aware that in my life, when I meet people, I want to be like that first story, where I was welcomed, where I was invited in, where I felt loved and excited. I don't want to be like the second story, where I'm closing people off and I'm refusing to welcome or help them. In today's story, Jesus is sending his disciples out. So he's telling his disciples, there are so many people who don't know the good news about my love for them, the good news about God's kingdom. I want you to go tell them. But then he says, if you go into a town and they welcome you, you tell them that news. Stay and share this story. Have dinner with them. Tell them that they're loved. Tell them that they're welcome. But if you go into a town and they don't welcome you, keep going. They clearly don't want to hear the story. When we look a little closer at that, we see that Jesus is giving us instructions about how we're supposed to welcome people, just as much as how we're supposed to tell the story. So how do we welcome people? In our lives, when we meet people, we look them in the eyes. We smile, we say hello. We ask questions like, how are you? Are you okay? Do you need anything? What's your name? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? How can I help? And then we listen to what they say and we show them respect. We hear that that's what Jesus is instructing people. That's how we're supposed to be. And when we act this way, even if we never see the person again, we know that we are showing them respect, that we're telling them that they matter and that they're important. And that's really important because in today's world, what we're hearing is people feeling like they haven't mattered for a long time. We hear people telling us that because of the color of their skin, they feel like they are unimportant. So we go back to these stories and we remember that our job is to welcome and to listen and to love. And when we do that, we learn about a new person, but we also learn more about the God that we share in common, the God that we worship, who loves that person just as much as they love us. So this week, I invite you, even though we're social distancing, to greet people and be really aware and intentional about how you share the story of God's love with them. If you see someone across the street, smile, say hello, wave. How are you doing? Those things, basic things, they make a huge difference. Well, I'll say blessings on your week, and I will see you on Wednesday with a children's message. And I hope that you will come to church, to First United Methodist Church in Whitewater, and check out our story walk. Thank you very much.